Okay, thanks for jumping in. Let's get started. Thanks for joining me on this series. This one's going to hit home for those of you who are not familiar with HTML. I'm going to do a pretty thorough series on HTML to get you guys caught up. If you are familiar with HTML, this will be kind of review for you. You might find a few gems if you stick around that I might put throughout this whole series as well. So I'm going to start by just opening up a browser and I'm going to explain to you what HTML is. So there's a lot of history, so I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. So there's going to be a lot of gaps that I'm not going to fill in, but you know, there's been a long movement over a long period of time to get to where we're at right now. So credits go out to Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who at the time when he was working at CERN came up with a text browser to transfer information over the internet using what's called hypertext to provide like kind of a point and click way to navigate through those documents. So that markup was called hypertext markup language, or HTML. The system was then named the World Wide Web, which we know today, and the W3C, which is this organization, put standards in place to help browsers adhere to a global specification. They introduced HTML version 4.0 and also like an extensible version of HTML, and then later that also got refined or respec'd into something around HTML5, and I think we're version 5.1 or somewhere in there. So to kind of give you guys a better understanding of what this markup is, we're just going to go to a site that I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with. So at the end of the day, what HTML does, it does kind of like two really important things. It kind of describes how the web page should look, and it defines what we call the semantics around those pages. So to kind of give you a better idea, I'm going to take away all of the styles and everything like that from this page and just kind of remove it here, just disable those things. And you'll see at the end of the day, it's really a document with hyperlinks, HTML elements, and a bunch of various other things that kind of help form what that document looks like. Now, you could have, you know, a document with the same type of structure and it could be styled differently and it looks, you know, completely different. And that's another thing that we'll get into later on in this channel, and it's CSS or cascading style sheets. Oh snap. Yo, I gotta go. Okay, you know what, I'm gonna get back to work and you guys get back to the video. Okay, they're still there. All right, I'm going. But for now, if we were to take a look at the actual structure, I'm just going to go into the inspector here. You can see that at the end of the day, we have, you know, a kind of document type that we have. We have this doc type. We have some structured tags, you know, a head tag, a body tag, and then we have some other things here. So there is a structure to this kind of markup. And once you would adhere to that structure, you can then, you know, give your page or web pages that semantic layout that it needs. Let's take a look at another one. Let's take a look at a popular one here. So like Shopify. So we're kind of have the same thing here. You know, it is semantically laid out and there are styles and things being applied, even some video elements or content that, you know, give the illusion of more dynamic flow with this website. So if I was to take away the styles again for this one, and we just kind of remove this right now, you can see at the end of the day, at the core part of the page, we have HTML elements, and these elements are put into place in a specific order and a layout semantically to form the structure of the document. So to kind of give you a better idea, I'm going to just kind of just close these for now. And we're going to open up an editor. What this is basically a project that I will help you guys set up, and we'll get structured and laid out so you guys can follow along. It contains the same kind of layout for the document. Now, I don't want to get too technical into each one of these tags for this lesson, but we'll cover these things in greater detail and you will become fairly familiar with some of these things. If you're following along on this channel, you will see that, you know, I've kind of set up certain things around development that will help you guys get going. So if you're using Valet, I believe I call this project HTML5, and then my TLD's code. So this is just a representation of what's here. So we have this markup, and you know, if I was to place some text inside of this markup, and you know, I go to the browser over here, whatever I placed in the markup shows up in the browser. And if we do a quick inspect, you'll see that the structure is fairly similar to that of the other pages that I took away the styles from. This would be like, think of it as the entry point to some of the markup. And I will do my best to provide you guys with the tools and references that you guys can use to figure some things out. So for instance, like a place like this will allow you to check and see if certain tags, and I don't want to get into the definition of tags just yet, but that's what they're called within, the markup elements, if they're available or if they work. Like here's one that, I don't think we've seen for quite some time. So it's been deprecated, and that's just a fancy word for saying it's obsolete. We don't use it anymore. And then there are others that you can check, to make sure how you can use them, and you can reference them and stuff like that, and whether they're still valid. So you'll have that as well. Plus, just to give you an idea of how much it's changed and how powerful the markup is, you can do simple things like, put in a date picker with very minimal effort. So by just typing that tag, and I'll break down what a tag is, and I'll walk you through what each of these things mean and the attributes and everything like that. So you'll become very familiar with this stuff, and we'll cover a lot of tags and their use cases. But you can see by doing something like this, we get an element that is, a date picker, and I can go through here and pick a date, and it will dynamically change in this tag. I can also scroll through different months, and there's a lot of functionality that you get just kind of out of the box with this thing, which is kind of cool. And that's the power of HTML, the hypertext markup language. You could do things if you had, like media types, like let's say you had an audio file. It'll generate a kind of generic player here, but it's really powerful. And I want to show you guys where you can go with this. You can do all sorts of things. And these are some of the more common ones. And there are ones that are not that common, but that come to play with things like accessibility and just, being a good developer and getting things working semantically the way they should. So in this case, I do have a source, and I'm just going to add it here. This thing really will pop up here, and now I've created this player that just kind of is embedded or is inside this thing. So if I actually inspect this, you can see that we have our structure and we have these tags that we placed and our things, and we're getting the results just from very little effort. The last thing I could show you is maybe say you want to do something like around an iframe, and if I was to jump back out into the browser, I've embedded like a YouTube video from the channel inside of this thing. Now, this is very interesting because these are just elements and we haven't added any styling to it, but you'll get the idea. So I'll do my best to try to walk you through all these things. We'll cover a lot of content, guys. I'll get you guys set up, and I hope you stick through this series because you'll become really familiar with HTML, and it will help with a lot of the content on this channel. The key thing to take away from this video is, at the end of the day, HTML is used in a certain way to mark up documents, and as of version 5, you're going to have a ton of features at your disposal, as well as the support behind those features, and much of it will work with old and new browsers. The browsers are pretty forgiving, so if you have some errors in your markup, some of these elements or these tags will still work, but you will get some unexpected things, so you will have to pay attention to those. So if HTML provides the structure, then CSS will provide the style. So we'll get into that later on, but this series will focus just on HTML. I will adopt some styles to show you how things will transition, but I'm not going to cover the styling of those elements or tags, but I will show you how they will change and how they can be used based on styling. I look forward to getting you guys caught up with this markup, and we'll move forward in the next lesson. And that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like the video if you found this useful. Leave your comments and thoughts below. Take care, and I will see you next time.